Hello, welcome back to the breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got lots of big news to share with you today. So, we're going to start off with a very big report coming out from the Belgorod region of Russia. This is right next to the Kursk region, where we've been hearing recently that Ukrainian troops are starting to pull out from that area as the incursion appears to be over for the most part. And now we're hearing of major attacks reported in the Belgorod region just right next door. So take a look at your screen. Ukraine attacks Belgorod, moves equipment close to border region. Vyacheslav Gladkov, the governor of Russia's Belgorod region, admitted to the complex situation being faced on Tuesday amid reports that a district in the region had come under Ukrainian fire. So there's a district just right on the border between Kursk and Belgorod and the border of Ukraine. I'll show you guys kind of like an intersection. There's a district there coming under attack today. I think like artillery was being fired in there, drones attacking that district. I've got a video coming out from there that shows a building on fire. So the Ukrainians are attacking that area, and I'm wondering if they're going to try to open up another incursion. And we had some reports on X also that apparently there was like two Ukrainian brigades trying to break through that area into that district. And unfortunately, it looks like they did not make it in completely. So I'm going to show you guys all the details on that. As it looks like we could potentially have another incursion opening up into Russia here very soon. So this is really not far away from the original incursion. So it's probably a lot of those, tens of thousands of troops coming out of the Kursk region, and they're probably trying to find a new way to enter back into Russia. So we'll discuss that here in just a moment. Also reports in the Kharkiv region that an oil refinery in Ukrainian territory was actually attacked last night and apparently was destroyed. So this is a oil refinery in the Kharkiv region that was running at 10% capacity. It looks like it was finished off, completely destroyed by Russian drones last night. So that's bad news for Ukraine, but at the same time, this oil refinery wasn't really producing a whole lot of oil anyway. So we'll talk about that here in just a moment also. And then we're going to briefly discuss what's going on with Vladimir Putin today. He's supposed to be meeting with Donald Trump and talking to him on the phone, discussing the ceasefire deal with the United States and Ukraine. So we'll see how that goes. Not a whole lot of information coming out on that, but I do have some things I can update you guys on. So let's go ahead and jump into this. We're going to hop into actually a mainstream news article here just for a moment. So there wasn't a whole lot of huge news outlets that were reporting this, but Medusa did report this today. Russian Telegram channels report attempted Ukrainian incursion into Belgorod region. This coming out today, March 18th, 2025. Can't believe we're already almost in April. This year is just flying. It says here, Vyacheslav Gladkov, the governor of Russia's Belgorod region, reported on Tuesday that Ukrainian forces were firing on the border district of Krasno Yarushki, if I'm saying that right. So I'll show you guys on a map where this is located at, just so you guys can kind of get like a visual reference. And it says here, all services, including first and foremost the Defense Ministry, Border Guards, Bars Belgorod, a volunteer unit, Orlan Local Self-Defense Forces, the district head, and the deputy governor are at their posts, working to ensure resident safety, Gladkov stated. He described the situation in the region as difficult. The governor said settlements in the Krasnoyarski district were under artillery fire and had so far been targeted by 29 projectiles and 49 Ukrainian drones, 12 of which were shot down. Okay, so you can see most likely artillery fire going in, 29 projectiles and drones. So lots of drones attacking the area also. Gladkov also reported that a bus had hit an explosive device on a road near the village of Gravovka, if I'm saying that right, leaving 3 people injured. The Telegram channel MASH said that 2 buses carrying workers from the Krasnoyarski broiler company struck landmines, injuring 5 people. Okay, so this is very close to the Kursk region. So maybe those were landmines were from the Russians, maybe from the Ukrainians, who really knows. But unfortunately, we had some innocent people that were just trying to get to work, and they were striking landmines inside of buses. Telegram channel Russian Spring War correspondents said that Ukrainian forces had launched offensive actions in the Belgorod area. According to the channel, Ukrainian troops began moving equipment and personnel towards the border, near the border of the Belgorod and Kursk regions overnight, and in the morning they started mine clearance operations in the areas of Prelesi, it's kind of hard to say, sorry guys, Grafovka and Demidovka. Then several tanks and infantry on ATVs were sent into an attack around Perles and Gravovka area, the Post reads. Other pro military Telegram channels also reported increased Ukrainian activity near the border of the Belgorod region, according to the channel. Archangel Spetsnaza, the defensive line was not breached. There was an attempt by Ukrainian infantry to break through, but it failed, it claimed. Okay, so you can see here, looks like Ukrainian brigades did try to move into the Belgorod region, but at this time, at least according to Russian Telegram channels, they did not make it through the defensive lines. Telegram channel Pepel reported that the local authorities have begun evacuating residents from the village of Grafovka. The channel also said a school building in the village was completely destroyed by shelling. So you can see here a picture. This was on Telegram showing some school that was completely destroyed by Ukrainian shelling. Okay, so definitely some pretty heavy firefights going back and forth over here over the border of Ukraine into the Belgorod region. So now we're going to hop on over to a map and let me show you guys briefly where this district is located that's coming under fire today. So we'll zoom in to the northeastern border of Ukraine with Russia. So right here, this is the Kursk region up here, and where the original incursion was just right in here. Here's Sudza, where Ukraine just barely pulled out of. Here's that major highway that leads from Sumy into the Kursk region, where a lot of Ukrainian equipment was rolling into to the original offensive up here. So just a little bit southeast, we have the Krasnoyaruski district, okay? And here's the town of Grafovka that they were just talking about, where that school got destroyed or damaged. So you can see it's a pretty large district here, and it's right on the border. So this is Belgorod region right here, right? So here's the city of Belgorod. Then this kind of dotted line might be a little hard for you guys to see, but there's a dotted line here that divides Belgorod region and then Kursk region up here. So it's literally right on the border of this intersection where these attacks are taking place at. Okay, this is Ukraine over here. This is Kursk right here. Then we've got Belgorod. So this is the district that is being attacked right now. So we'll see if Ukraine is going to try to open up a new incursion over here. I would think if they were going to, they probably would have done this at lightning speed and maybe would have making it in already. But, we'll wait for more information. There's not a whole lot of news coming out on this just yet, but potentially maybe Ukraine has made it in there, and maybe we'll get some updates over the next 24 hours or so. So now we'll jump back on over to X from Nexta. The Ukrainian armed forces have launched an offensive in the Belgorod direction. Yesterday, Ukrainian drones attacked Belgorod. Russian media and Z military correspondents reports indicate that by nightfall, Ukrainian forces had moved equipment and personnel to the border area near the junction of the Belgorod and Kursk regions. According to their reports, there has been no border breach so far. Yesterday evening, Ukrainian drones attacked Belgorod. An 18-year-old man lost his hand, the governor reported. Victim has been taken to the hospital. So it looks like an innocent person over here inside of Belgorod losing their hand after these attacks from Ukrainian drones. So we've got a video and a picture here that we can show you guys. I think this video is about like 10, 15 seconds long, but you're going to see a building on fire from most likely either artillery fire or maybe a drone entering into the Belgorod region. So we'll take a look at this real quick.
Пиздец, короче. Прямо вот тут пассажира должен был забирать. Как уебало осколки на асфальте. Я тормозился, передо мной осколки полетели. И вот после удара, короче, загорелся фасад, нахуй. Я уже 112 позвонил. Пиздец, короче. Прямо...
So it looks like at least a tree on fire here. I'm not sure if that building did catch on fire. And if you look right there, too, there's a bomb shelter. As we know, Russia's been constructing a lot of these for the citizens when they come under attack, especially in the Belgorod region. There's that bomb shelter right there that people can run into when they come under attack by artillery or any kind of bombs that Ukraine drops over there, or maybe a drone attack. So we did have some sort of attack over here in the Belgorod region. So move on to another picture here. You can see another explosion over here in the city of Belgorod. So Belgorod definitely being attacked last night, and especially that district that Ukraine was trying to push into most likely. So now we'll move on to some other updates from Bliskovka. This night, Russian drones attacked an oil refinery in the city of Marefa in the Kharkiv region, the AES Group press service reported. According to the company, about 20 drones were launched at the enterprise, and the strikes lasted for 2 hours. Until yesterday, the plant was operating at only 10% of its capacity, but after the latest attack, it was completely destroyed. Okay, so it looks like this oil refinery completely gone now. And we know a lot of critical infrastructure in Ukraine is already destroyed. I mean, Ukraine's been doing this a lot to Russia recently. This is actually probably the very first oil refinery inside of Ukrainian territory controlled by the Ukrainians that we've heard of being attacked in quite a while. This is usually Ukraine doing this inside Russia. So, very sad to see this. Once again, another oil refinery destroyed. But this is not too far away from the front line, considering it's inside the Kharkiv region. So, it's very easy for Russia to target this. These were pictures showing the destruction of this oil refinery last night. It was attacked by multiple drones. Now for Vicegrad 24 breaking, Bloomberg reports that Putin will demand that all Western weapon shipments to Ukraine cease through the 30-day ceasefire during his phone call with Trump. It would make it easy for Putin to later demand no new Western weapons at all for Ukraine if the war ends. Okay, so reportedly, this is something big that Putin is going to demand from Donald Trump during the phone call. We don't have any updates yet. The last I did see was that Putin was actually at a conference, and apparently the whole crowd and himself and the man that was hosting the conference with him were just joking when somebody brought up the question of, hey, don't you need to go speak to Donald Trump? And he kind of just joked about it and said, we don't really need to hurry to talk to him or something like that. It was in Russian, not really sure the exact translation, but it was basically stating that they were jokingly and not being too carried about speaking with Trump. So not being too serious about any of this war, basically, is kind of how I see that. So, we'll see what this happens to be a thing, but these are reports coming out today that Putin is going to demand that weapons cease going to Ukraine during the ceasefire. And actually, I believe that's something Ukraine claimed was that they're going to continue receiving weapons even if we get a ceasefire. That's a demand for them as well. So we'll see how that plays out. Now from Savchenko, Volodymyr. Starmer spoke to Trump last night and called for Ukraine to be in the strongest possible position, according to Sky News. He updated Trump on the meetings of the Coalition of the Willing, with more than 30 countries expected to be involved in supporting Ukraine. Okay, so two big updates right here. Starmer calling Trump and telling him, hey, don't forget that Ukraine needs to be in the strongest possible position before any negotiations, and also updating him and letting him know that the Coalition of the Willing is basically all kinds of European nations that'd be open to sending a peacekeeping contingent into Ukraine. Looks like he had more than 30 countries expected to be involved in doing so. Okay, so that's very good news for Ukraine. We'll see if that plays out also. Now from Anton Gerashenko, Kiev reality. Debris of a Russian drone fell near a school in Kiev this morning. Thankfully, the students and teachers were in a shelter, so no one was injured. This is a picture coming out from Kiev today showing a Shahed drone crashing into Kiev very close to a school. And thankfully, the kids were inside of a shelter, so they were not harmed in this attack. But this is a daily reality for Ukraine as they see a lot of these drones incoming. So crazy photo right here showing the destruction of this drone as it crashed in Kiev today. Now from next, Macron announced that Rafale fighter jets armed with nuclear warheads will be deployed at an airbase near the German border. No exact timeline has been given yet, okay? So we're starting to see moves coming from Macron now. He talked about this, what was it, a week or two ago, guys, I believe, that he was talking about a nuclear umbrella for Europe, stating that, France being one of the only countries over there with nuclear weapons, that he'd be willing to give certain countries maybe nuclear weapons under his control, of course, but to create like a nuclear umbrella and protection for Europe in the event that we see the U.S. completely pulling away and no longer supporting Europe anymore, even militarily if they come under attack. He was thinking about doing that, so it looks like they're even going to be moving some nuclear warheads very close to the border with Germany, which is just to the east of them. So that's some big news today. Now from Max 24, EU member states made progress toward a military aid package for Ukraine worth up to 40 billion euros, according to Bloomberg. However, some nations, including France and Italy, have asked for more time and additional detail. Hungary has long been opposed to providing Ukraine with any aid. Okay, so big updates as well. We're still waiting to hear about this 40 billion aid package, 40 billion euros that would be for Ukraine, and it looks like the EU is starting to make progress towards releasing this to Ukraine some point soon, but it looks like they're facing some obstacles in the road with certain nations not being okay with it, or maybe they want more details and more talks on that. So we'll see how that goes. Now from Max 24, U.S. prosecutors have been granted permission to auction the super yacht Amadea, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, owned by Russian oligarch Suleiman Kurimov. According to Financial Times, a 106-meter vessel was seized in Fiji in May 2022 on suspicion of violating U.S. anti-money laundering laws. It was later towed to San Diego. Okay, so at the very start of this war, there was a lot of Russian oligarchs that had their yachts seized, and I don't know if homes were being seized. Lots of very expensive equipment, like these yachts, were seized by Europe and the U.S. at the start of the war, and it looks like this oligarch is going to be losing his yacht, and it's going to be auctioned off. Okay, so that's very big news. A lot of oligarchs were losing money towards the beginning of the war. Now, from the Ukrainian Review, the UK and EU plan to discuss seizing frozen Russian assets to increase defense spending and apply more economic pressure on Moscow ahead of the peace talks on Ukraine, according to Bloomberg. Progress has been made despite resistance from Belgium and Germany. Lamy expressed hope that Germany's stance will shift after a change in government. Lamy and Collis will also discuss a proposal allowing the EU to invest 150 billion euros in arms for third countries, including the UK, Norway, and Switzerland. This would secure contracts for British defense firms without using UK funds. Okay, so we keep hearing about this. If these frozen Russian assets are going to be seized, maybe even given to Ukraine, they're still talking about it right now, but it looks like they're at least going to be holding some discussions to see if they can pull these Russian seized assets from these banks, maybe give it over to Ukraine or utilize it for something else. I mean, that's about 300 billion, so it's quite a bit of frozen Russian assets they could utilize for this war and defense spending for Ukraine. Now, from Liskovka, on one of the frontline areas in Donetsk region, a decision has been made to withdraw the Ukrainian armed forces from unfavorable positions. This was reported by Lieutenant General Suri Nayev. This made it possible not only to save our soldiers, but also to improve our defense. The enemy is suffering losses and we can act more effectively, he said. Okay, this was a report. It's not in English, unfortunately, but apparently looks like the Ukrainians are starting to pull back in some areas of the Donetsk region, which could be great or could not be good at the same time, as we have been seeing Russia making some gains over there. So it looks like Ukraine is starting to pull back and give up some territory in the Donetsk region. I'm not sure if this is near like Pokrovsk or where this is at, because as far as we know, Ukraine was actually launching counterattacks near Pokrovsk, that major transport rail hub city on the eastern side of Ukraine in the Donetsk region. So we'll wait for more information on that, but it looks like, at least in some areas, maybe Ukraine's starting to pull back in the Donetsk region, okay? So now we'll move on to another update from Max 24. We will still liberate the temporarily occupied territories one day, either diplomatically or militarily. There's no legal basis that would allow us to recognize the occupied territories as Russian or give them to the aggressor, member of Security Committee Venislavsky reported. Okay, so this is how a lot of the top leaders of Ukraine feel, is that they'll never, recognize these territories that were taken over by Russia as Russian territory, because I'm sure at some point, either diplomatically or militarily, I'm sure they want to try to regain it, whether it takes 10 years or 20 years. For example, Crimea or any of the four regions that are taken inside of Ukraine also, they're going to want to try to liberate it at some point. So this was a huge statement coming out from him today, and we repeatedly hear this. I mean, Zelensky came out saying this multiple times over the last week. Also, they'll never recognize these territories as Russian. Now, from the Ukrainian Review, Ukraine is ready to continue resisting if the Kremlin does not accept their proposal for a 30-day ceasefire, according to Andriy Sybiha, who's their foreign minister for Ukraine. At the same time, the foreign minister calls the possible ceasefire a big step forward towards establishing peace. Okay, so that was a statement coming out from him today. So we still don't really know what's going to happen here. I think we might get some good ideas on which way the ceasefire deal is going to move forward as we get to this phone call information coming out from Putin and Trump, which, as far as I know, has not taken place yet. Excuse me, or maybe it's going on right now, but we just don't have that information out on X or anywhere really. So once we get that information, we'll be able to find out whether this war could potentially come to an end, or at least a 30-day ceasefire coming up very soon. But based on that conference that I saw from Putin earlier and them joking about it, about this war, ending and talking to Trump about the ceasefire and basically making Trump wait, it seems highly likely that maybe Russia doesn't really care about ending this war right now. I mean, I haven't seen any indication of that as of yet. This war is still carrying on. Now, from NOAA reports, results of Ukrainian drone strike on the Molino training center in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region. The strike happened on March 15th. So I believe like 2-3 days ago, we reported this training grounds that was attacked. If you guys remember, it was a drone directly striking some of the barracks over here or some of the buildings that were on this property. So look at the amount of damage from this one drone that it caused here. And we can see Just lots and lots of damage all over the place. Tops this building, this building over here next door, completely wiped out and destroyed. I mean, look at that. The walls are gone, everything. So that one drone caused all this damage here. I'm not sure if you guys remember that video, but it was literally about 2-3 days ago, I'd say, that I reported that to you guys in Nizhny Novgorod with those training grounds, military training grounds, I should say. Now for Vicegrad 24 breaking, Maloney says she believes that British French peace proposal was a very complex, risky, and ineffective option, and instead calls for Ukraine to be provided with security guarantees similar to Article 5 of NATO. So we reported this like a week ago, as we've already heard this proposal coming from Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy. So it looks like she's calling for that once again and basically saying, telling Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron, don't waste your time with trying to send peacekeeping forces into Ukraine. It's a waste of time. It's an ineffective option. Let's just give Ukraine something similar to Article 5 protection. Just don't bring them into NATO, but at the same time, extend that Article 5 protection to Ukraine, even though they're not a NATO member. So she's calling for that once again. So far, we haven't seen support from that from any other nations, really. It's mainly just Italy calling for that. So we'll see how that plays out. Maybe in the future, somebody else will jump on board or more nations will be open to that idea. Now from the Kyiv Independent, Russian energy giant Gazprom suffers 13.1 billion loss in 2024. Gazprom's financial troubles were compounded by falling share prices in its subsidiary Gazprom Neft and an increased income tax rate of 25%, which raised deferred tax liabilities. Yeah, I'm sure that on top of all their facilities being hammered all year by Ukrainian drones. So 13.1 billion loss for Gazprom. Gazprom is continuing to go into the toilet, maybe at some point even needing to be rescued or bailed out, or they're going to end up going bankrupt, right? So now we'll move on to another update from Military News UA. All right, excuse me, guys. Sorry, my voice is still a little congested right now. So it says here, Ukraine has created a drone with a range of 3,000 kilometers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced yesterday that the Ukrainian kamikaze drone with a flight range of 3,000 kilometers has passed the test. Here's a map of the range of this drone, which reaches almost to Novosibirsk, if I'm saying that right. In particular, now the largest in Russia's Omsk oil refinery will be in reach. Okay, so we reported this, I think it was yesterday, the day before. I think it was yesterday, actually. Ukraine announced that they had a new drone that could travel 3,000 kilometers. So this is where, the border of Ukraine is at. Look at how deep it can go into Russia, almost all the way out to far eastern Russia. This thing can travel now. And there's multiple refineries far east, well beyond the standard 1,000-kilometer range, which is kind of where we've been seeing Ukraine extend up to. I think we've seen some hits as far as like 2,000, but for the most part, on average, 800 to 1,000 is probably the furthest range we've seen most drone attacks from Ukraine. But now with this new drone, they can start extending out to 3,000 kilometers. So just kind of a map to show you guys how far into Russia they can target, okay? Now from Anton Gerashenko, Ukraine and 7 other European countries demand that Russia stop its outgoing satellite sabotage, according to NOS. Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Ukraine, Finland, France, and the Netherlands have filed a complaint with the International Telecommunication Union, or ITU, specialized agency of the United Nations, regarding Russia's repeated interference with European satellite communication, demanding that these actions cease. In particular, last year, Russian propaganda about the war was shown twice on baby TV in the Netherlands and other European countries. However, Europe used these satellites not only for radio and telecommunications, but also for ship coordination and air navigation. That is, ships do not know where they are. As a result, more than 30,000 flights over the Baltic states have been disrupted since September 2024. According to the study, the disruptions originate from Russian-occupied Crimea and Russia's Kaliningrad, and aimed in particular at confusing GPS-guided drones involved in the war against Ukraine. Russian hybrid war has many forms and formats, needs to be taken seriously. So a little map showing the 2 areas most affected by the Russians as they're trying to jam GPS signals. Also, we've seen a lot through Kaliningrad that many planes flying over here to countries like the Baltic states, Poland, when they fly around this area near the Baltic Sea, their GPSs are getting jammed a lot coming from Kaliningrad. So looks like multiple nations in Europe are now starting to complain about this and filing a complaint to the International Telecommunication Union. So we'll see if something gets done about that. But I'm thinking highly likely it will not happen. Now for Max 24, F-16 and Sumi. So here's a new video, guys, of an F-16 being spotted in the Sumi region. This is up near the Kursk region where Ukraine just started to pull out of. It seems like for the most part, Ukraine's probably out of the Kursk region now. But we just had a report a couple days ago that Ukrainian forces are still kind of operating over there. It might be a small piece of land that they're holding. But as far as I know, they're not completely out yet. But we can see here we do have an F-16 flying over the Sumi region. So kind of cool to see that. We don't get to see too much video footage of those F-16s over there. Now for Max 24, in 2024, the Ukrainian military industrial complex produced weapons worth $10 billion, according to UIF. So in 2022, they produced $1 billion worth of weapons. 2023, $3 billion. So look at they tripled within 1 year, $3 billion. And then a year later, look at that, guys, 2024, $10 billion. In 2025, production is expected to increase 30 to 35 billion. Isn't that nuts, guys? I mean, Ukraine is just turning into a powerhouse for military technology, weapons. I mean, at some point, I think many countries may start to rely on Ukraine just because their whole industry is just based on military knowledge. They're just producing so much stuff. I mean, just their drones alone, I think they're producing about 2 million drones a year. And that's just right now. Imagine another year from now, that number could go up maybe double or more. And compare that to like the United States. The United States is only producing somewhere around 100,000 or 200,000 drones, I believe. Ukraine's producing 2 million. Okay, so very crazy news. Ukraine is continuing to produce more and more weaponry as this war drags on. Okay, so Ukraine will only get stronger over time, and that's exactly what Volodymyr Zelensky's talked about, that they want to put Ukraine in the strongest position possible. The only way to do that is to produce more and more weapons, right? Now, from Anton Yushchenko, Lithuania, Poland, Latvia, and Estonia have announced their withdrawal from the Ottawa Convention on Anti-Personnel Mines. Okay, so looks like they finally withdrawn, and we talked about this about a week ago. There was another convention that they were pulling out of. I think it was for cluster munitions, if I'm not mistaken. They wanted to start being able to produce those and protect their nations with cluster munitions if need be. And also now pulling out of anti-personnel, the Convention on Anti-Personnel Mines also. So, this is very big. This is even more sign that Europe is preparing for a potential war with Russia in the future and utilizing whatever means necessary to defend themselves and also to deter Russia from ever attacking Eastern Europe also. Okay, so very big news today. All right, now from Bliskovka, Air Defense Forces of Ukraine destroyed 63 out of 137 Russian UAVs. 64 Russian imitator UAVs were lost locally without negative consequences. All right, so 137 Russian Shahed drones going into Ukraine last night, and it looks like a good majority of them being shot down, more than half, and even some being lost locally, most likely with electronic warfare. So there's your daily update on how many drones entered Ukraine. Now our final update of the day from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of March 18th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So here's our final update of the day, guys. Russia's losses as of March 18th, 1,560 troops, 20 AFVs, 107 vehicles of fuel tanks, 8 tanks, 42 artillery systems, 149 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems, and 2 special equipment. Okay, so lots more being destroyed today. Take a look at that troop number, much higher than it has been recently. We've been seeing on average maybe like 1,200. So now it's starting to creep back up to 1,500 now. And I wonder why that might be, that we had much more troop losses on the Russian side just over last night. 20 AFVs, quite a bit also. 100 vehicles and fuel tanks, kind of been seeing that recently. 8 tanks, not too many, but still a decent amount being destroyed, and 42 artillery systems. That's usually about what we see, 30, 40 right here. So yeah, major losses on the Russian side last night to report from Ukrainian intelligence. And we'll see how this whole incursion, if this happens to be what we're seeing up in the Belgorod region just today, and maybe Ukraine will launch a major attack over there, and all of a sudden we're going to see a new incursion open up into Belgorod. But right now, it looks like to be a localized area where Ukraine is attacking at. Maybe they're trying to soften up an area before they move in. But I'll follow that story very closely, and if we get more updates, I'll let you guys know at a later time. And I'm also going to pay attention to what happens with Donald Trump today and Putin, and see if we get some big information coming out on whether this war could at least freeze for a little bit for 30 days coming up very soon. So I want to thank you so much for tuning in for this update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.